Hello, everybody. It's finally here. This is my official NBA draft big board for the 2023 NBA draft. Woo! This is not my first attempt at making this video. This is not the first one. There's a lot of technical difficulties that I was unable to overcome. So now you're going to be seeing the most stripped down, easy to make a version. If it sounds like I have a little bit of a lisp, number one, get over it. Ableist, who cares about lisps? Number two, I have my retainer, and so keeping my teeth nice and straight. But yeah, let's jump right into it, pal. They say that history is written by the victors. Guy named Victor Wembanyama is the only player in my tier 1. He's the best player in this draft. So, the number one reason that Victor is number 1 is because of his defensive ability. Am I showing you a defensive highlight? No, but am I going to take the time to pull up defensive highlights? No, these are good enough. So, number 1, he's a defense-first player right now, and so his main strength is as a rim protector naturally, because this guy's gigantic. He has a massive wingspan. He could protect the rim literally without jumping, just off standing reach. He has enormous hands. He just takes up like more space on the court than anybody else. Just standing in the paint, he is overwhelmingly big. And then on top of that, he can move well. He moves fluid. He's not like super explosive or anything, but he just moves like someone much smaller than he does, but he's much bigger than he is. Defensively, he's really versatile enough to do almost anything you ask of him. The only thing I would say, like, don't do is put him on, like, have him chase Steph Curry around screens or, like, guard Kyrie Irving in isolation or something like that. But honestly, he's so gigantic. Maybe he could guard Kyrie. Probably not, but oh well. Let's give it a try. Who else is going to take a shot? But yeah, so defense first prospect. This guy is one of the best defensive prospects ever because of where he is at like 18 years old, how he already processes the game, and because of where the physical tools are right now. Like, if he never improves from where he is right now, he's already a really, really good defender. And then offensively, you're seeing he's doing stuff like this. So he has a handle that's pretty good, and it's especially unique for somebody this size. So this, once he puts on weight and once he just like gets more comfortable with the handle and everything, this kind of stuff is going to be very, very difficult to stop, because again, he's just so gigantic. So everything he does is magnified. So when he does these, it doesn't take a lot of steps for him to get to the rim at all. There is one misconception about Wemby, I think, and it's his shooting ability. He's really not as good of a shooter as you might think. He definitely has flashes, and I'm pretty confident in his shooting developing really well. But the one game that he played in the U.S. was against the G League Ignite, and he went 7 for 11, and he was hitting all kinds of crazy shots. But that is, like, by far his best shooting game, and he's never shot the ball like that, as far as I saw. He never shot the ball like that again. So, and he was below 30% from 3, so it was kind of a rough shooting year. But having that 7 for 11 game from 3, that's not something that a 20% 3-point shooter has, I don't think. So I feel pretty confident in that developing. So he has the handle, he has the shooting. One thing about him is his driving game. I think right now he's a little too bothered in traffic, like trying to drive while hands are reaching in from help, like when defenders are digging in on drives. I think he tends to like pick up his dribble too early, so that'll be something that he's got to work on. But yeah, this is a guy with elite slashing potential off the dribble, because he's too big for everybody, and for the few guys that he's not too big for, he'll be too fast for. So it's just a mismatch. And yeah, being able to handle the ball and move like that at that size is really next level stuff. And then I believe in the shooting. I think for sure he'll be able just to be a capable floor spacer. But you see, like that kind of shot making. If he ever gets to a more dynamic level consistently, then that's a game wrecking player. And then as a passer, I think there's there's some good, but there's probably more bad than good. He still misses stuff. Um, but the thing about him is that, again, he's going to be the tallest guy on the court. He has these gigantic hands. So what I'm picturing is him just standing in the middle of the paint, holding the ball up with one hand all the way straight up. Who could steal that ball? Nobody. You would have to jump like you're gonna dunk, and honestly, that might even be higher than 10 feet. So, not really something. They can't just snatch the ball away, and he could just play make that way. Everyone else could move around him, and he could just sit there without panicking and just drop it in to whoever he wants. Because this is you hear about like passers seeing over the top of the defense, like Magic Johnson. It was an advantage for him being so tall because he could see over the top of the defense. There will literally not be a defense that Victor can't see over the top of. So the passing potential is really next level, and he's not even bad right now. He's just a pretty mixed bag, and so when it comes to is he the best prospect ever, it's really hard to judge. When it comes to him versus LeBron, I've done a lot of thinking about this. It's really just impossible to compare these two guys. They are two different positions. They're like LeBron is 6'8". This guy's like 7'5" in shoes. Um, they're coming into the NBA. One guy came into the NBA in 2003, in the most disgusting period of basketball ever. And then this guy's coming in 2023. It's just like there's way too many differences, and there's differences in scouting. So it's like the scouts back then, the kind of stuff that they were looking at and what they valued in the game and what mattered. It's just like it's so foreign and so different. I don't think there's any valid discussion you can have where you're really making a point that's like, oh wow, that's a really good point about that. I just think there's no point talking about him versus LeBron because there's literally no way to know. It's just too different. He for sure has maybe the highest ceiling ever, or one of the highest ceilings ever for a draft prospect. But and he's really good right now. But he's not the best 18-year-old basketball player ever. I think Luka was for sure better than him at the same age. And the only reason people are saying like he's a better prospect than Luka was because he has more of a high ceiling because of the defensive potential, but he'll never be the offensive player Luka is. Very few people in NBA history are. But yeah, this guy is still like an all time great prospect. In my tier two, we have Scoot Henderson and we have Amen Thompson, and it's just these two. So Scoot is built in the mold of just all the best athletic attacking point guards. I don't know if he's quite on the athletic tier that like Derrick Rose and Ja Morant and Russell Westbrook are, but I think he has really, really high level burst. I think he has like a 6'9" wingspan, as you can see right there, and I think he has gigantic hands that he can palm the ball so easily. So this is a guy who should be able to live at the rim. What you're really hoping for is that even though he's pretty tiny, he's like 6'2", you're hoping that he can have a really high percentage at the rim, and most of all, you're hoping that he can draw a lot of free throws. You're hoping that defenses freak out whenever they see this guy driving, and they try and foul him because they're like, we got to stop this from happening. He is a really good ball handler on top of that athleticism. So the ball handling helps him keep up with how explosive he is. And so that should help him be a threat attacking the rim. He is a really, really good passer. He's somebody you can trust. Yeah, you can see right there the nice dump off pass. He's somebody that you can trust to be your primary decision maker, lead initiator, point guard, lead ball handler, whatever you want to call it. And what's really interesting with him is I think he can do that on and off the ball. I think he is obviously somebody who can like run pick and rolls and stuff like that. Somebody who can create out of isolation because he can blow by guys. But also, I really like his off the ball creation. Like they used a lot of these actions where they would run him around off the ball and get him the ball while running downhill and stuff like that. And so I really, really like that. I think he is a very scalable offensive player. I think he'll be able to fit next to a lot of other talent because of that ability to play off the ball. And yeah, that just the rim pressure, the passing, the off ball movement, that's really good. And then he's also on top of that, he's a really good 2-point pull up jumper shooter, like high 40%, I think. So that's good. Not necessarily for your mid-range scoring ability. Like, will he be at a level where he's one of the few guys in the NBA you want taking mid-range shots? Maybe. But I'm more so looking at that as hope that he can develop as a three-point shooter and just get to league average from three. If he gets to, like, if he can hit pull-up threes off the dribble so that defenses can't go under on these pick and rolls, then he'll be one of the most dynamic offensive players in the league, probably, and he'll be able to punish anything that you throw at him. But defensively, he has all the tools to be great, but he is not great right now, and he really doesn't play very hard. So that's something you want to see improve, but also you got to wonder how much is he going to try based on the offensive load that we give him? Like, if you're saying, oh my God, Scoot, save us, run our entire offense, how realistic is it that the guy who didn't even play defense in the G League is going to now suddenly step up and play defense in the NBA? Maybe he does, but I don't know. I'm just not really counting on him becoming a really good defender during his time in the NBA, but hopefully the tools are just good enough to where it's like, if he gets to the NBA Finals and he's isolated on the ball, that he can just like fight through better than if, like, I don't know, some other small, like, better than if John Morant's isolated or something like that. But yeah, just probably the safest bet in this class to become an all-star level talent outside of Victor Wembanyama. And so there are obviously ceiling concerns with this guy just because he's so tiny. If he does dominate, I heard, I did listen to Ben Taylor's podcast yesterday, and I really liked what he said. So this is Scoot Henderson. He's like 6'2". In order for him to be the best player on like a championship team, if it happens, it'll be because he's doing something that we haven't seen been done before, and he's doing it in his own unique way. So I'm not going to say it's like impossible for this guy to be the best player on a championship team just because there's not a great track record of it. It's only like in the past 20 years, it's really only like Steph and Dwayne Wade. But yeah, just a guy you feel good about taking with a really high pick because you think he'll hopefully he'll be good pretty early on. I don't know about rookie year, but hopefully he'll be good pretty early on, and then hopefully he has a really high ceiling as well. So Ausar Thompson is my number 3 player in this class, and it's because he has about as high. No, he for sure has the highest ceiling in this class outside of Victor. Because he has like a ceiling that you'd usually associate with like a number 1 pick, and it's because of this athleticism. And so a lot of basketball talent evaluators are saying that this guy is the best basketball athlete that they have ever scouted, and I mean it might be true. I'm not gonna go out and say that for sure because number 1, I'm not like a biomechanics expert, and so it would just be me like throwing a buzzword out there like the most athletic or whatever. But also, I don't know how you compare his athleticism to somebody like Zion, who might not be able to do all the like nimble movements that he can do, but like there's a level of power that Zion has that this guy will never have. But outside of that, this guy is like a 6'7", like a Michael Jordan type athlete, like nuclear first step, can make every single jump you would ever need to, horizontally, vertically. He's 6'7" with a 7-foot wingspan. I don't know how big his hands are, but yeah, you can see he's just like, he gets by people so easily. I think it's like 1 foot, it's 2 foot. He could do literally everything. He can contort his body in the air however he possibly needs to. Laterally, he's so fast. He has some of like the craziest closeouts and defensive coverage of any wing defender I've ever seen. His defensive range is monstrous. But yeah, so athletically, you hear, oh, sorry about that. You hear a lot of people say like Scoot is the next Westbrook or whatever. This guy is close. This guy's in that tier. This guy is like Westbrook, Rose, John Wall level athlete, and a lot of people would put him even above that. And so, yeah, number one, he won't be doing that a lot. But so, in addition to that athleticism, that's like the main selling point. This is a guy you're hoping will live at the rim. Like, you're hoping they literally won't be able to stop him from getting to the rim and finishing. Like, you're hoping he does that kind of stuff all year long. But he's also a really good ball handler. He's a good enough ball handler to keep up with the explosive athleticism. So his game can be as dynamic as his body wants it to. So that's really, really important. Like, yeah, that kind of, well, he loses the ball there, but that's just nasty stuff. And then on top of that, he's a really, really good passer. He's one of the best passers in this class, and he's another guy you can trust. Like Scoot, you can trust him as your lead initiator, primary ball handler type guy. Like, this is a guy you're confident in running your offense, making all the decisions, that he'll be able to make every read and be a solid, steady decision maker. And so he's not like top tier passing talent. He's not like, this isn't like a Luka or a Trae Young or a LaMelo or something like that, but he's really up there, just as being really good. And the athleticism unlocks a level of creativity for him as a passer that I think is not available to most other guys in the league. And so, but that combination right there, just of athleticism, of handle, and of passing, that is what puts him at number 3 for me overall in this class, and it's why I think he has a legitimate superstar ceiling. And so there's two big concerns with this guy. Number one is he's really a non-shooter. He's like sub 30% from 3. This is Ausar Thompson, right? Yeah, I don't know how they pulled up like every jumper that he made. But yeah, this is a guy who's shooting below 30% from 3, shooting in the 60% from the free throw line. So you got to wonder, it's like, how good is this guy's touch? Is it realistic to ever expect him to become a league average 3-point shooter? I hope he will, but I'm not going to make any promises or any guarantees. But I think he's so athletic, he might be to the point where it doesn't really matter a whole lot. He's the kind of guy you're like willing to tailor your roster around. You're willing to get spacing from your 5 and your 4 to make life easier on this guy, because when you fully maximize him, you could compete with the best players in the entire league. And so, yeah, he's 6'7" with a 7-foot wingspan and can blow by everybody. So I'm not super worried about the lack of a jumper, but it would make his life a whole lot easier if he ever figured something out. He does have to improve from the free throw line for sure, but you know what I actually just saw yesterday is I was looking at Allen Iverson's college stats, and he shot in the high 60% both of his years at Georgetown from the free throw line. And this is a guy who's shooting like 8 free throws per game at Georgetown. So that's really high volume. But in the NBA, he took a leap as a free throw shooter, like 10% leap. Like, he's high 70s and sometimes 80s, I think, a few times in the NBA. So I think it's for sure possible to be a good free throw shooter, and that's really what matters for this guy, because you want him living at the rim, and you want them fouling him, and you want him punishing them for that. Honestly, athletically, calling him a jumbo Iverson might not really be all that crazy. But so outside of the jump shot, the other main concern is his level of competition, because he played in this overtime elite league. And so this is really like glorified high school basketball. Him and his brother are both 20 years old, and they're both playing against high schoolers. And so they're the oldest guys in this league. They're also the most athletic guys in this league. And so you would hope that they wreck these guys, which they kind of did. but these aren't really quality games. Like, a lot of them are played in transition constantly, like that kind of stuff. But also, they're kind of played in transition a lot because him and his brother are such monstrous defenders. But I'm applying the same optimism to him that I applied to LaMelo Ball and to Josh Giddey, where even if there are a lot of concerns, I like the package of the passing ability and the handle and the ability to get to the rim. Well, not in LaMelo's case, but Josh Giddey's case. Yeah, let's just focus on the Giddey comparison. I like the handle, the passing ability, and the size. And so even if there's some really other big holes in the game, and like, so Josh Giddey in Australia really couldn't do anything except be big, pass, and get into the paint. He couldn't finish when he was in the paint, but he could get into the paint. And so Josh Giddey was very theoretical, but he just had that size, and he had that passing ability, and he had that ability to get to the rim. And so I was like, this is a guy who's a good bet early on in the draft. LaMelo Ball, he was pretty bad in Australia overall, really as a scorer. The percentages were horrible from like everywhere, but you could see this is a guy with a creative elite handle. He's got insane creative special passing vision, and he's big. He's like 6'7". So that's the kind of lens I'm applying to Ausar Thompson, and I don't know if I'm doing a good enough job fully explaining why that's a good analogy in my head, because the NBL is a far superior league to this. It's like professional. It's grown men playing, not high schoolers. But my point is, those two guys, like, they didn't really succeed in that league. They didn't do good in that league, but you could just see the skill set on display, and so you felt comfortable taking them. And so even though Ausar Thompson did do good in this league, I don't really care about what he did in the league. I don't really care about the competition because I'm just seeing the skill set on display, and I think it'll translate no matter who's in front of him. And they did play other professional teams. They played like European teams, and then they also played Team Creighton in the basketball tournament. So a bunch of guys who used to go to Creighton and who are like made up of overseas players right now. And so the number one thing about them playing these pros is they for sure transfer defensively. Like, him and his brother should be really good defenders day one, and they have probably the highest ceilings in the entire draft class of wing defenders. Both of these guys could be all defense type defending wings. Offensively, he did get a little dicey with the heavy ball pressure from Team Creighton. That when they would press up on him, he had some trouble. So, but that'll be fixed as the handle comes along. And so, yeah, he's just a guy. I'm willing to take a swing on him. Obviously, because of the whole non-shooting thing, and because it will be such a big adjustment going from these high school kids to the NBA, and he is already 20 years old, I think there will be like some concerns, and I don't know if I would count on him being good early on. Outside of defensively, I think Ausar Thompson will be great defensively early on, but offensively it would probably be a struggle as he tries to like fully figure things out and fully learn how to weaponize his athleticism, because yeah, he's kind of like Derrick Rose in that he can make layups tougher on himself by trying to like contort around guys and avoid contact and stuff like that. So, but I feel pretty confident in this guy's ceiling, and if he does bust, then I don't feel too bad about not hitting on this draft pick, because it's like I was betting on one of the most athletic guys ever, so I'm not going to feel too bad about that. So that's why he's number 3 in on my board. I think he plays the most valuable position on the court, which is like a guy who can be your half-court lead initiator, and then I think he's got all defensive wing potential. So I got to start speeding it up from here. But this is my tier 3. Take it in. And so my number 4 player in this class is Taylor Hendricks. So Taylor Hendricks is like the Jaren Jackson Jr. of this class. He's not as good of a prospect as Jaren Jackson Jr. was, but this is a guy who's a safe bet to be a good player, and he also has an untapped ceiling. This is, yeah, you see right there, this is a big time rim protecting guy. He's 6'9" with the 7'1" wingspan, so he might not be like a full time center, but he's a guy who has sky high potential at the 4, and as like he could play the 5 in the right situations against guys who are closer to his size. And yeah, you could see that like face up slashing potential. But yeah, the main selling point for this guy is the defense, and so he's going to be, you're hoping for an elite help side roaming shot blocker at the rim, and he's also mobile enough to guard like really anybody on the perimeter. Well, maybe obviously not the best guards, but this is a guy you can stick on pretty much most wings and be really comfortable, and some less dynamic guards, and yeah, so he's really like a chess piece defensively. He unlocks a lot for you to do. He's in that mold of the new roaming big men like Jaren Jackson Jr., like Evan Mobley, like Giannis. He's that kind of defensive player, like a free safety type guy. There is really not a defensive coverage that I feel like he won't be able to pull off in the NBA with time. He's definitely got to put strength on to become like less movable down low, but this guy has next level defensive potential. And so on top of that defensive potential, he's also like a really capable floor spacer. He's 39% from 3 and like shoots really well from the 3-point line. So this is a guy who could be your legitimate stretch big. Like, let's say you're building your ideal team around Ausar Thompson. This is the kind of big you want, because it's like monstrous defender, but also doesn't get in the way on offense, can space the floor. And then in addition to that floor spacing, which is a pretty rare thing, he has this untapped athletic face-up like driving ability, and like he has decent ball skills. So yeah, like look at that. That's crazy. So he's like, he really blurs the lines between like big wing and big, and so he's just got I think as high of a ceiling in this class as anyone other than the three guys I already mentioned. His ceiling might even be higher than Scoot's. I don't know. I haven't done too much thinking about that. But yeah, just a really, really fantastic player who should be a good player no matter where he lands. And then you're hoping that he reaches a ceiling of being an even more dynamic player. So you're hoping for like maybe an all defense level impact guy, and then capable floor spacing with upside for more. Then at number 5, this is pretty controversial. I have Ice Bryce Sensabaugh. If you want to know why, go look at the one other thing that I've posted. I think he's a really, really special scorer and a really special shot creator. Number 6, we have Brandon Miller. So obviously 6 is a little bit controversial for Brandon Miller, because this is a guy who might go number 2 in the draft, or probably number 3 if he doesn't go number 2. But yeah, I think it's the reason he's going so high is people are selling him as the next Paul George, but I'm in the camp, and it's a pretty big camp, that he's not there athletically to be the next Paul George. So I don't know if I see a lot of like superstar potential with this guy, but I think he's a pretty safe bet to be a good starter in the NBA and somebody who's valuable, because in transition, yeah, he can get up like that. But in the half court, you have finishing concerns. Some people say that if he puts on strength, that those concerns will be mitigated. And so maybe that's true, and maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe he will be Paul George. But for now, from what I'm seeing, I'm just more comfortable betting on the other guys I named to be special players than I am on betting on him being a special player. But yeah, he's really good. He'll be number 1, a fantastic, fantastic shooter. He can do it off movement. He can do it off the dribble. Obviously, he can knock down just like stagnant shots, like kind of that one. And he's got deep range, so that's really, really nice. On top of that, he's a really good passer with either hand. He can run pick and rolls. You do worry about the lack of like half court explosion. How realistic will it be for him running a lot of your offense with that kind of limitation? But either way, it's something great to have. And I think he's somebody who could be a really, really great secondary or like third type of ball handler. And then defensively, it's up and down right now for him, but he has all the tools to be pretty good on the ball and off the ball. And so I think you're just, with him, you're just getting a really, really reliable, good wing player. And another thing with taking him is I think he can be used early on in his career. I think he could be a big time trade chip for a potential superstar because every year a superstar gets mad and they want to be traded. I think he could be a big time trade chip because even if I don't think that his ceiling is as high as some of the other guys in this class, I think he'll probably be really good early on. Like he'll be pretty good, and that will kind of inflate his value on the trade market because people will see a rookie and especially a rookie wing doing well. And so I think he might have more value on the trade market than he's actually worth. And you could kind of pull off like a cheeky little steal for a superstar. You know what I'm saying? Because I think about somebody like Sadiq Bey, who was really good early on in his career and probably had more inflated trade value than he probably should have. And then he kind of like cratered back to earth. But yeah, I just think this guy's a really solid, really reliable player. The only thing is you question the half court finishing, but outside of that, he's got a really unique skill set, and he's a guy who can fit on like almost every single NBA team. My concern with him going number 2 to the Hornets, I wouldn't take him for them, is because he's not a strong half court finisher, and because LaMelo isn't a strong half court finisher, I worry about the ceiling of that kind of team who doesn't have their best player, their number 1 or number 2 guy can't finish at the rim in the half court. I wonder about the ceiling of a team like that. So and yeah, both of these guys, they'll be able to do some stuff in the half court, but you got to wonder how easy is it going to be for them to get to the rim in the playoffs versus the best defenses. Like LaMelo, even with the handle, it's not super easy for him, and I don't think it'll be super easy for Brandon Miller. So that's something to watch out for, and that's the reason he's at number 6 on my board. At number 7, I've got Cason Wallace. So Cason Wallace is, I think he tested 6'4" with a 6'8" or 6'9" wingspan. So this is like a pretty big lead guard, and so with Cason, you're hoping for a Marcus Smart type outcome, I feel like, although probably more like of a steady decision maker rather than like a reckless one. But also there's like I don't like throwing out these really high level comps, but there's a lot of Drew Holiday in the type of player that this guy's going to be because he's as good of a defensive guard prospect as you're really going to see coming out of college. Like this guy is locked down on the ball, and because of his tools, he can probably guard like 1 through 3 on ball. 3 is probably more situational, but my alarm went off on my phone. This guy is a really, really special guard defender, point of attack defender. I've seen some concerns about his ability to navigate screens, but I think that is somebody. Oh, I just got the people in the submarine are confirmed to be dead, I think. Also, the Suns got 10 picks for Bradley Beal. What a news day on the draft day. But none of those stories are more important than Cason Wallace. So the number 1 selling point is you're getting an elite guard defender, and so that's big time. And then offensively, he's not super dynamic, but you're just hoping he's capable enough to stay on the court. And I think he will be because the shooting numbers weren't great, but I believe that he can become just like a capable spot-up shooting type of guy. I don't know how realistic the pull-up potential is, but yeah, I think, he won't be a guy that you just ignore like Tony Allen or something like that. And then he is a good passer on top of all of that. And so this is like the perfect guy to put alongside like a Luka or a Trey and just guard the other team's best player, be a secondary ball handler, and make things happen. And so, and there may be more untapped offensive potential because that always happens with these Kentucky guys. I saw someone say it won't happen with Cason because those other Kentucky guys, the reason they weren't able to fully showcase their offensive talent is because they were buried on deeper rosters and his roster wasn't that deep. I don't know. His rim percentage number was really high. It was like 68% or something like that, and it was on a lot of self-created shots, but also it wasn't really a high volume number. So that's a very unique combo. It's like almost all self creation, like 9% of them were assisted. So it's almost all self creation, but it just wasn't happening that much. And so I got to wonder what are the half court finishing numbers. I didn't check, but I wonder how many of those self creative finishes were him getting the steal and finishing in transition, something like that. But I think this guy's for sure a really, really solid finisher at the rim who just picks and chooses his spots. And he's not somebody who can like blow by guys super easily like that. And he settles for the mid-range pull-up there. But yeah, I just think he's good enough offensively to hang and be a capable scorer, and that'll make him valuable because he'll be a monster on the defensive end. Next up is Ausar Thompson. So with Ausar Thompson, I'll be straight up. I'm gambling on him at this point, even though he has a pretty low floor, just like his brother. I'm gambling on him to become the next Andre Iguodala, somebody who is a all defense level defender, somebody with a 6'7", somebody who's 6'7" with a 7-foot wingspan, and somebody who's a really, really like cerebral, smart passer. And so I think at this point right now, I think Ausar Thompson is a lot of those things. There are definitely big-time concerns with him. My number one main concern is the finishing. His finishing numbers, especially in the half court, were really, really bad. And so that's not what you want to see for somebody playing high school competition and who's the oldest, most athletic guy in the competition outside of his brother. But also there were spacing issues, but still he has to improve on fully weaponizing his athleticism. He's got to be more like his brother with the finishing. But different to his brother is his shooting. He actually has more shooting optimism. Like, I guess he's been shooting it well in workouts and stuff like that. And he shot 30% from three, and he really started turning it up at the end of his season. And so people buy his shooting touch more. And so if he's ever able to be like a legit, like, look at that. If he's ever actually able to do that, Jesus Christ, he'll be a monster. But I'm just hoping for capable floor spacer. So while his brother is a full-time lead initiating point guard ball handler, he is a just like off-ball wing type guy, but he's also a really, really good passer. Not good enough, I think, to the point where you can run your offense through him, but just far, far ahead of where usually a like raw athletic wing prospect would be, and somebody who could really, really do damage as a secondary or third ball handler. And so I think that's special. Defensively, he's even better than his brother, and he's just going to be a complete monster, all defensive type ceiling with this guy. And he's also a better ball handler than his brother, but he just doesn't have the same level of burst in the half court. And if he does, he's just not as good at bringing it out. But yeah, and everything, all the competition level concerns I addressed with his brother. But yeah, this guy just has a really, really high ceiling. Like I said, I'm hoping for an Iguodala type ceiling. The floor is pretty low, but at this point in the draft, at the number 7 pick, right? This is a time where I feel comfortable betting on him, and I don't feel super bad about missing out because, like I said, it's just rare for somebody to be 6'7", 7-foot wingspan, nuclear athlete, capable, not even just capable, like good ball handler, good passer. And the shooting, like, there's signs of life. So I just think this is a fantastic gamble. I can't guarantee you that he's going to be good, but I'll take the chance at 7. I'll get fired, and then I'll go work at Menards or something. After Ausar, we have Keyonte George. So Keyonte George is a combo guard. I've seen comparisons to Anthony Simons, and I really rock with that comparison. I know Anthony is a better athlete, but Anthony Simons also doesn't attack the rim as much as you want. And so I think that's one similarity that both these guys have. But Keyonte George, I think, is a really good ball handler. You can see it right there. I think he's a really, really advanced ball handler. I think the shooting is the main weapon. His shooting numbers weren't fantastic, but I think it's pretty easy to see all the potential he has as a dynamic movement shooter. And, like, he can pull up off the dribble. And there's just so much potential for him to be really, really nuclear. Like, look at that kind of stuff. The shot making is off the charts. So I like the combo of, of shot making and handle. He's big for a guard. He can like guard either guard spot, I think, and he's a good defender when engaged. I think he's a good passer. Like, yeah, you could see him running pick and rolls, and he makes a lot of really nice reads and stuff. The number one concern with this guy is, will he be able to get to the rim? So his rim volume was very, very low. Like, for a lot of the year, the finishing number was really high. It was like 67% or something. But it was because he just wasn't getting there, but he was finishing every time he was there. And so I don't know if, honestly, if he's that limited athletically. Like, he's a below-the-rim athlete, but I feel like he's better physically than those numbers suggest. But maybe I'm wrong. But either way, yeah, you're hoping for like an Anthony Simons type outcome. Maybe he's probably a little more advanced as a passer, and you're hoping for more defensive buy-in. So he could become, I think the ceiling is higher than an Anthony Simons type guy. Like, there is a Jamal Murray type ceiling, maybe. But yeah, even if like the medium outcome for this guy, I think, is just a really dynamic shooter, and that helps your offense. And then the ball handling and playmaking ability is just something. It's just something you want. So I'm buying in on Keyonte George at this spot. Next up, we've got Kobe. So Kobe Bufkin is like Keyonte George in that he just checks a lot of different boxes. He's so versatile. Number one, he's a better defender than Keyonte George. He's a reliable, really good point of attack defender that can guard like either guard spot, and so that's something really useful. And then on offense, this is a guy who can be a secondary, be a third type ball handler. He's like a good passer. I've seen him do it off a live dribble. He can pull up off the dribble as a shooter. He can make jump shots off the ball. He's a really good finisher. The finishing numbers were really fantastic. He's a good athlete. This guy, really, he's just like, he can do so much on offense on top of being a really good defender. So I just buy into that versatility. How high is the ceiling? I honestly don't know. I really do feel like there's a pretty high ceiling. Like, do I think there's an all-star ceiling? I don't know. He looks like Jaden Smith to me also. Is that true? People tell me my comparisons for looks aren't very good, but I just like the versatility that this guy brings to a roster. I think there's like a really good chance that this guy's a good starter, and who knows if there's more potential because of just how many different things he could do at the college level. So we'll see if he develops in the NBA. Will he be like a jack of all trades, master of none type guy, where all the stuff he was good at in college he can sort of do, but he's like not as dynamic? Or will he be as good at all of those things as he was in college? I don't know, but I really like him. So, and at the top of tier 4, we have Anthony Black. So Anthony Black is like a Lonzo Ball type player. He has a lot of point guard skills, and he has positional size. He's like 6'7" with like a 6'7" wingspan. But your concern is, will this guy be good enough at scoring to play point guard in the half court? And with him, probably not. The jumper numbers aren't fantastic. And then he's decently athletic, but not athletic enough to succeed in the half court without a jump shot. And so this guy's much more of a complementary type player, but he's a really good complementary type player because he's probably, yeah, I'll go out and say, I'll say he's the best passer in this class. He reads the floor really, really quickly. He knows where everyone is, like, instantly whenever the ball touches his hands. He can make every single type of pass that you really need him to make. The number one thing I like about him is his passing preference, which is layup passes. I think he's always trying to open things up to get teammates an open layup. And so that means he's really good at passing in traffic. Like, even when there's all these bodies in traffic, even when there's 4 guys, I really like his like patience and vision to find the open man, like right there. I think he can just like see the entire court at all times, and it's just like a really rare like throwback type passing ability. Like I've talked about this. When you watch Magic Johnson highlights, your passing highlights is very different to modern passing highlights. Because he's just like throwing it into the paint at 100 miles per hour at the open man, even though there's like four guys standing around him. And so Anthony Black does similar type interior passing. It's like really, really impressive. And so, yeah, you could see right there, obviously, he's a really, really good defender as well, like probably a 1-3 on the ball type of defender, and then like just a smart, good help defender as well. But yeah, the main weapon is the passing. The question you got to ask is, how many opportunities is this guy going to get to pass like this? If you put him on a team and you're like, this is the Anthony Black show, be our full-time point guard, it's not going to go well because he can't really score, so there's not going to be passes for him to make because the defense will just stay set up, and they don't need to send anyone to help, and so he won't be able to exploit any openings. But if you put him next to another really high level creator who draws a lot of attention, he's like the perfect complementary player. He's a connecting player, like off the ball. You can swing the ball to him and he'll immediately swing it to the right guy and get the ball where it needs to go. Like if you have ever seen Kuroko, the basketball anime, he's like what the type of player that Kuroko is. But yeah, you're hoping for some big time improvement as a jump shooter, so that he could be a capable floor spacer, and then that'll make everything else fall into place. The defense, the passing, and he'll be like a guy who could be a starter on a really, really good team. And so he's not maybe not the safest bet in the class, because if the jumper never comes along, it's like, is he going to be able to get on the court in the playoffs because they could just ignore him? But the passing is that good for me to where I'm like, I'll take a chance on him early, and I like a lot of the versatility that this guy can offer in the right situation. So then next up, we've got Jarris Walker. So Jarris Walker is somebody I'm a little bit lower on than a lot of smart draft people, and so it's probably better to be on their side. But I'm just gonna say what I think. I'm just a little bit less convinced about his offense translating to the NBA. And I'm a little less convinced about his overall versatility defensively. Specifically, what I mean is, I don't know how great of a perimeter defender he'll be in the NBA. I don't know if I trust his feet. I don't think he moves super, super well on the perimeter. But despite all those things, like, this guy is gigantic. He's a tank. When he attacks the rim, he has like big time slashing potential, but he does cut his drive short too early. He doesn't drive to the rim as big as you would want him to. He settles for a lot of floaters and stuff like that. But it's a double-edged sword, because it's nice that somebody like that has a floater to even begin with. But yeah, the selling point for this guy is defense near the rim, just like really, really smart help defender, can protect the rim, and can be like a real shot deterrent, and like blows up plays, and he's always reading the floor and figuring out what's going to happen next. So really, really smart player. And then offensively, he can handle the ball and he can pass, which is really, really good. But I think he's like Anthony Black, where I think he'll be a little bit dependent on playing around other really good offensive creators for him to be able to exist on the court. I just don't really buy into him becoming a capable three-point shooter. Maybe I'm wrong. Honestly, this could be the one guy that we're looking back on, and it's like, Jesus Christ, this was like max level wrong in every single way about this guy. But this is just how I'm feeling right now. I'm just less convinced about just him. But overall, he's just a really, really good P and D wing. The P is for passing. So passing, ball handling, defense around the rim, sometimes guarding on the perimeter, but I don't want him versus like a really quick guy. And then if he ever like fully unlocked his slashing potential, maybe that's where you're getting like star value. There's some people who think he has star potential, I think. And so if we look up in a few years and he's one of best players in this entire class and I was completely wrong, I won't be super surprised. But right now, I'm just not seeing it the same way a lot of other people are seeing it. But he's still very, very good. So for this next one, we'll do a 2-for-1. We've got two shooters right next to each other, if it'll focus. We've got Dick and Hawk. So obviously, Grady Dick is a big-time shooter. That'll be his weapon. He's like the token white shooter, but he's 6'8". So that's something a little bit unique. That's not something he's going to be doing a lot of in the NBA right there. But yeah, just a pretty dynamic movement shooter. He's probably more dynamic of a shooter that he showed he could be at Kansas. I don't know if they ran him around as much as they probably should have. But he's a really, really good shooter who also is capable defensively in the right matchups. Like, this is a guy with some of the best hands in the class. So he really, really racks up steals and blocks. And so against the right matchups, I think, like, I watched him versus Texas Tech, and he completely shut down a lot of their guards' drives. So I think he can hold up versus some people, and that he won't be, like, a complete liability on defense in the playoffs. Sure, like, probably the best players will try and pull him into actions to, like, try and pick on him if he doesn't, like, put on weight or something. And also, he's pretty stiff and, like, upright. But still, I think he's far from just a complete non-entity as a defender. And those hands, like I said, are pretty special. So I would be, like, if I'm playing the Celtics, I think he could hold up against Jaylen Brown, because anybody with, like, a suspect handle, I think Grady Dick could do good against them because, yeah, just those hands are really, really fantastic. So big-time shooter, big-time ball mover, big-time connector, high-feel offensive player, should be able to stay on the court defensively. And so that's the kind of guy you want on your team. That's a nice cut there. Jordan Hawkins is the most dynamic three-point shooter in the draft, and he's also got this, like, little bursty, springy athleticism sometimes. But yeah, the number one main selling point for him is the movement shooting. This guy can just sprint all around the court for the entire game and knock down a shot at any angle that you want to give him. And so that is a big time trait in the NBA. For somebody to be able to demand that kind of attention off the ball causes so many problems. So this is a guy you can put alongside really anybody in the NBA, and he's going to make them better because he's going to pull attention away from them. Like, this is like your JJ Redick, your Kyle Korver type guy. He's just so fantastic as a shooter. You're hoping that there's probably more potential as a driver. You're hoping that he can hold up defensively. There's definitely, like, signs to be optimistic for him being good defensively. And look how quick that release is, man. But for him, he's just going to be a dynamic off-the-ball player in the NBA, and somebody who I'd be pretty surprised if he doesn't stick and become either a good starter or a good rotation player in the NBA, because this shooting is so special. Then we've got Nick Smith. So Nick Smith is a guy that was supposed to be a lot better than he was based on his high school ranking and everything, but he was coming off an injury, so he didn't quite play up to his ability at Arkansas. But I really like him. I think he can be a Jordan Poole type player, like good Jordan Poole that we saw. And he has the ceiling to be more than that, but that's what I'm hoping for with this draft pick if I'm taking him. The shooting numbers weren't good, but going back to high school, I think his shooting numbers were always good, and I see a lot of people talk about his touch. People really believe in his touch. He's a good secondary, like tertiary ball handler type guy. There's a lot of those in this draft. Now that I'm realizing, but yeah, you can see the touch right there. You're hoping that this guy can make shots from three, can make shots from mid range, and then he's really quick, twitchy, athletic. So yeah, that kind of stuff is crazy. Just sprinting into a floater. Yeah, a little adventurous pass, but that's good. So yeah, really what you're hoping for is good Jordan Poole with him. At least that's been my projection for him. And his motor runs really, really hot on both ends. Sometimes he could be a little jumpy defensively, but I like it. I like somebody who's trying a little too hard versus somebody who's not trying hard enough. And so this guy's got the potential to be like a microwave spark plug type scorer, capable defender, and like good playmakers. So this is a good bet on a guy who didn't live up to expectations in his college season, but probably has more potential than he showed. Then we've got Jet Howard. So Jet Howard is a 6'8" shooter, just a big shooter, and so these guys are valuable. You're hoping for like at least like a Cam Johnson type impact, but also there's some self-creation potential here with this guy. Like in the half court, he's shown some real ability to be more than a shooter. Defensively, not fantastic, but 6'8", so you're hoping like he won't get bullied in the playoffs. And so yeah, like that kind of stuff is really, really nasty. Just there's this shot making potential here. There's a chance this guy becomes more than a shooter. But the base of him just being a dynamic 6'8" shooter who can do a little bit of stuff like that on offense, that's what you're buying into with him. So after Jet Howard is Dariq Whitehead. So for Dariq Whitehead, I'm going in with the same exact thought process that I went in with AJ Griffin last year, and I feel good about betting high on AJ Griffin last year. So I'm gonna bet high on Dariq Whitehead in this year's class. I think he's a really good gamble at this spot because he was one of the highest ranked high school players in his class, and somebody people thought could be like a top 3 pick, top 5 pick, like all-star level scoring talent. But then he ended up having these injury issues, and so by the time, I think he had like foot surgery, by the time he got back to Duke, he was not the same athletically, but still, this is a guy who shot over 40% from 3 in the limited minutes that he was able to play. So this guy's a really good shooter. Not fantastic defensively, but really what the gamble I'm taking here is that he looks more like that guy, but like a little more bursty. Like when you watch the high school highlights, this is a guy who's far more athletic than he showed at Duke. And it would unlock this this really high-level slashing game for a guy who's like 6'6", 6'7", I forget what he is, and at that size who can pull up off the dribble like that. So that's like a really, really high-level scoring talent and who has the size to be good defensively. So you're betting on health more than anything because he showed he could be that guy in high school, but you just don't know if this is a situation where like he'll get all the burst and everything back, or is it like a Harry Giles type thing where it's like, oh, sorry man, it's just lost. So we'll see. But I really like taking a gamble on Dariq Whitehead at this pick, and so he might stick in the league even if he never gets back to it athletically fully. He's just a really, really good shooter who's pretty big. So next up, we got Leonard Miller from the G League Ignite. So Leonard Miller is another gamble here, but the gamble is a 6'11", face-up, like, slashing ball handler type guy whom I love that little pass. That wasn't from him, but he had the finish. You're hoping that this is a huge guy who can handle the ball and who moves in a really, really funky way. Like, he's got, like, some Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to him, where he just moves in like the most bizarre, funky pace ways. You're hoping that that could lead to him being a really, really high-level slasher, and like just somebody, a four-man who can handle the ball, who can slash and shoot and pass. And so he's definitely a like more developmental pick. But this is a guy who was productive in the G League this past year. I think he finish with like 60% true shooting. I don't know, but yeah, I think a lot of offensive potential here. And then defensively, he moves well. He has all the tools to be good. He is more of a perimeter type defender than like somebody who could protect the rim at a high level, and more of like a help defender. But I think this guy has a lot of upside on both sides, and he's just a really funky, bizarre player. So there's, I think that unlocks a new tier of star potential for you. So I really like Leonard Miller. So my last player in tier 4 at 19 is Cam Whitmore, and yeah, I know that this is pretty low for him compared to consensus, but I'll explain why. So Cam Whitmore is another one of the freak athletes in this class, but I'm much lower on him than the other guys, and so I'll explain what separates him from like the Thompson twins for me, who I think are also like big time athletic projects. And so what I talked about with them was specifically their ball handling ability and like their feel for the game. I think that they have all the tools to fully maximize their athleticism. I think the handle can keep up with the athleticism, like off the dribble, that they can fully use it. And I think they just have a great feel for the game. When it comes to Cam Whitmore, I don't know if the offensive skill set will fully allow him to maximize his athletic tools. He gets a lot of comparisons to Anthony Edwards physically, but I think Anthony Edwards was a lot more dynamic of a ball handler, and he was somebody who could go 100 miles an hour with the ball. Cam Whitmore, I don't know if he's at that level of skill, and like that play was like completely nuts. That was the first game I watched of his. I was like, Jesus Christ, who is this freak? But yeah, Cam Whitmore is a really, really powerful, explosive, attacking type wing, but there's not a lot of finesse to his game to me, and I think there's like just a ton of room to grow. He's much more of a straight line driver, and then I think there's a lot to be desired when it comes to him as a passer, and just there's not enough of a solid foundation for me to bet on him above some of the other guys. Like with Dariq Whitehead, I'm betting on something I've already seen. I'm betting on his high school dominance. With Cam Whitmore, you're betting on him doing a lot of things that you haven't really seen him do. Like, you're hoping that he dramatically improves as a passer. You're hoping that he'll buy into defense all the time. You're hoping that he gets more dynamic as a ball handler and doesn't just have those types of drives. And so I just feel like he's a boomer bust guy. There's for sure like superstar potential if he ever figured everything out. And so he's another guy like we could be looking back on this and be like, oh my God, look at how humiliating. This guy couldn't see how great Cam Whitmore was. But I just feel like the floor is very low. And if he doesn't figure out any of his weaknesses, then I just don't feel too confident in a lot of pathways to where he's like a capable role player if he doesn't fully boom. So that's why I'm lower on him. But at 19, to get somebody with this level of star potential, I think that's really nice too. So that's fantastic. Also, his P3 testing numbers were like out of this world. I think he tested like number one in every single possible category. So maybe this guy is just that special of an athlete that I'm too stupid for passing on him. Despite all the skill and feel concerns, but that's where I got him right now. So we'll see how it turns out. Hopefully he is really good. I would love to be wrong on him because it would be so cool to have somebody this athletic be that good. Like, look at that. Oh my God. Now we're in my tier 5, and so number 1 in tier 5 is James Nagy. So James Nagy is like a 6'10", 6'11" guy with a 7'5" wingspan. Really, really powerful, explosive leaper. He plays for Barcelona, and he's like already a decent young player in a really good professional league. And so with him, it's pretty simple. You're hoping for like a Clint Capella type outcome where he's just cleaning up in the dunker spot. He's one of the best roll men in the league because of the physical tools, and you're hoping that he can come along defensively and be a big-time rim protector. He's got stuff to work out as far as like feel for the game and like discipline, but this guy's got all the potential in the world to be a fantastic starting center. So I don't even feel like I'm low on him, but at 20, that's so crazy that he's at 20. This really is a fantastic draft because this guy could go so much higher in a lot of other drafts. He's so cool, and I love him. Next up is another athletic big man, Trayce Jackson-Davis. So Trayce Jackson-Davis has now been at Indiana for a little while. He is a super athletic big man. Like, he tested off. Well, hold on a second. Oh my God. He tested off the charts in like every single physical testing at the combine. And so, number one, this is a guy who you can count on to be a really great rim runner, I think, in the NBA. He's 6'9" with like a really long wingspan, and that's how he spent his freshman year, is doing like a lot of rim running and like cleanup type stuff. So this guy's a big time athlete with all the size and tools you want for like a smaller five, I guess, and like a four-man. But I think he could be like a similar like roving versatile type guy and like small ball five. But yeah, what happened this year is he became such, or I guess recently, he became such a dominant post player that he would get double teamed constantly, and he was picking teams apart out of these double teams, and so he became a really fantastic passer. And so people do have criticisms for this. People say he's far too left-handed dominant with the post finishes, and people say that the passing isn't actually that impressive because, or it won't like cleanly translate to the NBA because he knows how to make all the reads out of being doubled in the post. But this isn't a guy who's going to be drawing double teams in the post in the NBA probably. So it's like, how good of a passer is he? Is he a proactive passer? Like, does he read the game ahead of time, or is he just reacting to all these coverages that he's already seen like a million times? So how will he function in the NBA? But really, I like passing. I like high volume passing reps at any spot on the floor. I think all that matters is the number of reps. The more reps you get as a passer, the better a passer you'll be. And so I think that experience of him being constantly doubled all the time, I think that'll be a super valuable experience for him in the NBA, and I think it'll translate to connective passing and like short roll passing and stuff like that. So I'm really high on that. I think he'll be able to post up mismatches, but again, that's not something I'm really counting on. I think he'll probably make his money in the NBA as more of that rim running, lob threat, dunker spot, finisher, cleanup guy who can do the occasional like face up ball handling stuff versus a mismatch and stuff like that. And then defensively, I think he's really good. I think he can protect the rim. I think he can switch out on the perimeter. And I just really buy into the whole Trayce Jackson-Davis experience. I think people got kind of desensitized to him because he's been in college for so long. But this guy's a really fantastic athlete with a really unique skill set for his type of player. So I'm all in on Trayce Jackson-Davis. I think he'll be a good starter. I'd love to see him go to like Golden State or something. I think he'd be fantastic. What's going to happen on this play? Whoa. So next up is Brandon Pajimski, the Austin Reeves of this class, the spiciest white boy in the entire draft. Brandon Pajimski fits the mold of like the Austin Reeves and like Tyler Hero, Jordan Poole type guy. Maybe he won't be as high end of a player as that, but I just think he'll be a valuable offensive role player in the NBA. I think he's obviously he's got a really fantastic floater. He's a really dynamic, good shooter. He can really pass out of these pick and rolls and stuff like that. Just can really fill it up offensively. The only question you have is athletically. Like, will he be able to get by anybody in the NBA? Maybe not. He has to settle for a pretty tough jumper there, but he makes it because he's got nuts touch, insane touch. And then there's defensive concerns, like will he be picked on because he's not great athletically, but this is a guy I like late in the draft, and he could be like Austin Reeves. People might be asking, how could you let a guy with this skill set and this confidence specifically, how did you let him fall so far in the draft? And he averaged like 20 points a game at Santa Clara or whatever. So this is a really good guy in a really good draft. So he's going pretty late, but I love him. Next up, we've got Derek Lively. So Derek Lively is another rim running big that you're hoping could be a big-time rim runner, dunker spot, cleanup guy on offense. There's been a lot of hype recently about his shooting. People say he was a better shooter in high school and that he's been shooting really well in the workouts. So if he can become like a capable spot-up shooter, that's really, really great for him. But for now, he's just like a versatile, rim-protecting, switchable in some scenarios center type guy with like really, really long arms. And so I think he's just a good big man. I think he'll be an NBA player. I don't know how high the ceiling is, and that's the reason why he's just not one of my top players. But this is just like such a deep class that you can get somebody like this late in the draft. Yeah, just a safe bet to be a really good player. After Derek, we have Ricky Council. So Ricky Council is a big-time explosive driver. He's like 6'6" with like a 6'10", 6'11" wingspan. Really good percentage at the rim. He gets up. He can do it from a lot of different angles and stuff like that. He has really good body control, really good touch at the rim. And so big-time slashing explosive talent. He's and if he shoots guy, like you're hoping that he can get to league average from 3, and there's some optimism for him to be able to get there. But this is the main selling point, this slashing ability. And so he's like a solid defender. Doesn't pass enough probably, but I've seen some really, really impressive dump off passes from him. So this is another just really, really cool guy for this late in the draft. So yeah, just check out Ricky Council's finishing. Wow. So Koulibaly is Victor Wembanyama's teammate who kind of blew up over this past year. He is an athletic project wing. He's like 6'6", 6'7", or something with like a monstrous wingspan. And so, yeah, people just get excited about the big-time potential for this guy. I'm less sold on it just because a lot of the same stuff with Cam Whitmore. I just don't think the skill set is nearly as dynamic as the physical tools, and I think it would take a lot for him to catch up to that. And so I'm just not super. I don't know what % chance I would put on him hitting. If he does hit, he has like big time potential to be a monstrous defender and a big time slasher. And if he became a capable shooter, then you got like this really, really fantastic wing. And that's the vision that these people are buying into. But yeah, for me, it's just, I think the ideal version of him is just a little too far away, and that's why I'm a lot lower on him than most. Next up, we have Chris Murray, the twin. So last year, I wasn't very high on Keegan Murray, and I guess I'm continuing that tradition with Chris Murray, so we'll see if he makes me pay. But for me, he's just like the most basic of 3-and-D wings. I think he'll be able to make threes. I think he'll be able to play defense, but I just don't think he'll be that game-changing or dynamic at either of those things. The tools look really nice, but I think he'll just be a fine NBA player, but I don't know if he's like a big-time starter or anything like that, but maybe he will be. So, boink. Then why did the flash turn on just now? Now we got Max Lewis. So Max Lewis is a guy who really popped off at the beginning of the season, but then wasn't able to keep the same momentum for the rest of the season. He actually really fell off. But early on, people were like, this guy is the next Devin Vassell offensively. He was wrecking everybody. He was like knocked down, lights out from 3, lights out at the rim, like 67% true shooting, decently athletic, like 7-foot wingspan, capable ball handler, like all the things. I had him like really high up in the draft, but then he just kind of fell off versus better competition, and his defense is pretty bad. It like doesn't live up to the tools. But this is a guy with like a lot of shot creation type skills, and you're hoping at this point. I'm like, I don't know how realistic it is to expect him to be the guy that I thought he would be earlier in the season, but you're just hoping for another like spark plug, really good shooting wing who could maybe create it for himself off the dribble and maybe can learn how to use his tools defensively. We have Ryan Rupert. So Ryan Rupert is a big-time defensive wing. He played in the NBL this past year for a good team. He was like playing legit playoff minutes, and he was guarding really important players in really important moments, and so he's pretty good. Maybe it's a lazy comp because he's French, but I'm hoping that he is like Frank Ntilikina 2.0. So he has a lot of the same defensive strengths that Frank Ntilikina had, like really, really tough to get by at the point of attack and stuff like that. He's got a monstrous wingspan. He's like 6'7" with a 7'3" wingspan. The shooting is very questionable. The offense overall is questionable. It's like, how is he going to be able to score in the NBA? Will he be able to score enough outside of transition to stay on the court? But in transition, he looks like nasty. Like, look at that. That's crazy. The deceleration, the length. It's like he's got big time tools. He's still really young, and he's already really good defensively. The jumper does not look like that all the time. But if he shoots, then he's a really, really valuable 3-and-D wing, and he's a really explosive athlete. And so, in my mind, he's like if Frank Ntilikina had a lot of burst off the dribble. So we'll see what kind of player that results in. But he's a very, very cool gamble this late in the draft. And then there's my last player in Tier 5, Jalen Hood-Schifino. So I'm much lower on Jalen Hood-Schifino than consensus, and I'll explain why. I think overall, people are just saying that he's really good at this stuff that he's not good at. So he gets, like, when you read other scouting reports and stuff, people talk about his passing. I don't think he's a good passer. I think when he does make the passes, he's good at it, but he just misses more passes than any other point guard prospect in this class to me. Like, that one was really nice, but there's so many times he's just ignoring really, really, I think, easy, wide open passes to make. And so the decision making is a little sus. The pull-up three-point shooting is nice, but like this is a guy who shot in the low 30%. I do believe in the shooting potential, but I don't know if I believe in like him becoming good enough at the pull-up threes to justify taking them. People really like his pull-up two-point shooting, but again, it's like the percentage isn't fantastic on them, so I don't know. The man's not Ice Bryce, I'll tell you that much. The rim finishing number is really bad. It's like 52%, and he wasn't able to get to the rim a lot. And you could say, well, it's because he had Trace Jackson Davis posting up a lot there, but still, it's like, come on, this is a guy you're considering taking like top 10 in the draft. I'm more skeptical. I don't think he's a fantastic athlete, so I think it's pretty tough to get to the rim. And just look at, there's a lot of this. Like, that's a really difficult shot. So, overall, I don't know what skill you're banking on him having in the NBA. Like, he's got positional size, and there's flashes of everything, but I feel like there's substance for nothing. So, maybe he's a guy who is a pre-draft candidate. Like, if he came back next year and just suddenly started hitting all the pull-up threes and, like, started making all the open reads, then I would be like, this guy's fantastic. But even then, I feel like there's there's rim finishing concerns and limitations to where maybe the ceiling isn't super high. So another guy that a lot of smart people really, really like, and so I could be completely wrong on, but for him, I just don't really see it at all. I think there's, I'm not going to say the comparison. It's just not the guy for me. And so this is my second rounders. I'm just going to do rapid fire. I'm not going to go through all of them. Jalen Slauson, really good, funky defender who can shoot and pass at 6'7", but he played a bunch of years he's like a 5-year player at Furman, so competition level, you're like, how good is it? I don't know. Jordan Walsh, he's like the Herb Jones of this draft, lockdown perimeter wing. Gotta see if he can do anything offensively to exist on the court. CD Sissoko, a very big, very cool passing big man. Keyonte Johnson, a wing. He's like plays bigger than he really is. He's more like a 4-man, but he's only like 6'5", but he's got like a 7-foot wingspan. But yeah, this guy was supposed to be like a top 10 pick a few years ago before the heart issue, and he came back, and I'm just hoping he could be like a 3-and-D wing with some really interesting passing and stuff. And maybe there's like still big time slashing potential. Who knows? Omax Prosper, big time athletic gamble. Just a big guy who's a big time athlete, fantastic defender. Can he do anything on offense? That's the gamble. Demoy Hodge, super old, like 25 or something, but 40% from three on high volume, really good defender. Miles Norris, former top 100 high school ranked player, 6'10 shooter, athletic. Sir Jabari Rice, best pump fake maybe in basketball history. That's literally why I have him here, and he can do like some all the other like little guard stuff you really need. I don't, but the pump fake. Amari Bailey, really, really good point of attack defender. He, some Avery Bradley vibes. Could he become more? A lot of really smart people think so, so maybe he will. Jaime Jaquez, just a wing who's got athletic concerns but can do like everything. And so you're just hoping that he's athletic enough to do all the same stuff in the NBA, but he might not be, so we'll see. Colby Jones, similar type thing, really smart player, really well-rounded skill set. But is he athletic enough to exist in the NBA? Is my screen a little, or is my camera a little foggy? Kobe Brown, similar to Jalen Slauson, like a little bit smaller than you would want for his type of player, but really smart defender around the rim and on the perimeter, can shoot, can pass, can do everything. And then we're in tier 7. And so these, I guess, I don't know what the differentiation between tier 6 and tier 7 is. I'm just like more confident about these guys panning out. And then these guys are just a little more risky. But, and this isn't, the ranking doesn't really matter. It's just, I'm just throwing these guys in. They're all second rounders. Marquise Noel, very dynamic, but he's too small. So will he be able to make it work? I don't know. Jalen Pickett, very throwback, like back to the basket, Mark Jackson type point guard, but fantastic passer. We'll see if his athletic limitations limit him from even going to the NBA. Imani Bates, can he rebrand himself as a Duncan Robinson type shooter? If he can, then he can stick in the NBA. PJ Hall, big wing who can make threes and play defense. Jake Stevens, just a freak, 7 foot, gigantic, can shoot and can pass, can protect the rim. Is he too much of a big, slow ogre to stick in the NBA? I don't know, but Jokic was a freak, so I'm betting on a freak like Jake Stevens. Day'Ron Holmes, pretty good rim protecting defender, just not very dynamic outside of that. Same thing with Noah Clowney. People that have Noah, I guess I'm really low on him too. I just don't think he's very dynamic at all in anything. I just think he's like a solid defensive player who I don't think the offense will allow him to exist on the court in the playoffs. Adama Sanogo, I think people have seen him play. He's very good. Will it translate to the NBA, or will he be a little bit too small to exist in the NBA? Tristan Vucevic, that was really bad. Stretch 5, Nadir Hi-Fi, young guy playing in a European league. Tevian Jones, shooter. Seth Lundy, shooter. Hunter Tyson, shooter. Malcolm Cazelon, former high pedigree French prospect, like gigantic wingspan. Never quite lived up to expectations, but I think there's a lot of little things about his game that I like when I watched him over the years. So I'm like, let's take a swing. Andre Jackson Jr., like connective piece. Will he just be completely ignored on offense? So all the good things he does, will they not matter at all? I don't know. And then finally, Marcus Sasser, bet on a good small shooting point guard. So this is the big board. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53. Oh, I didn't even... Oh my God, I just skipped this row. Uh, this guy is a really athletic, bursty guy in the overtime elite. Gigi Jackson, big time tools, horrific decision maker on both sides of the court. Turk Smith, potential microwave spark plug scorer. Julian Strother, just capable shooter. Ben Shepherd, shooter. I lost count, but these guys are in the second round, so, well, that's it. Goodbye.